Welcome to the Sharpe Way, everybody. I appreciate you guys showing up. Today is a very special show. It is a Sharpe Way guest show. Yes, I have two cool guests I'm about to bring on. This is the Family Matters show. Why? Because family does matter. Absolutely. So I want you guys to show me that you care. Do me a favor, like, comment, share, let people know that this matters. Let people know that this is going on and it is important to you. So please make that happen if you would. I appreciate that. And of course, always follow me on Twitter to the best of your ability. Twitter matters. People are tweeting everywhere. Stop looking at my handsome mug and instead head over to Twitter, click like, follow me, and we can rock and roll. I am very lucky today on this very special Sharpe Way guest show to have two great guests I'm very happy to have. The first one, guy I've known for many years, helped me out tremendously. The man himself, Navy vet, father, leader, family law activist. The man himself ran for governor of Illinois, Kash Jackson. How are you, sir?
I'm fantastic, Larry. It's good to see you, bud.
That's what I wanted to hear. But I don't only have him. You would say, Larry, what a great show. You've got Kash. But no, wait, there's more. It's like I'm one of those guys selling stuff late night. Absolutely. I have a musician, an activist, the director of Victims of Family Law for Joe Jorgensen. Chris Cole has joined us this evening. How are you, sir?
How are you? Thanks, Larry, for having us on.
Absolutely. Now, you might ask, and people often do, Larry, why do you care about family law? Why do you care about the plight of so many parents, parental rights, fathers' rights? Why do you care so much? And what actually happened, for those of you who don't know, is I actually was running for office in 2018 across New York, and across 2017 when I began my run. People will come to my events and they'd ask me things like, well, what are you going to do about family law? And to be forward, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I was ignorant. I did not think it was that big of a deal. I'd heard a story here or there, but I thought those were all just the odd story. And then people would tell me terrible stories about how they're alienated from their children, how they have it. I heard I've been paying child support of $2,000 per month for 3 years, and I haven't seen my kid in 3 years. And when I first heard those stories, and please, those of you who've been through this is just how I felt. And I was wrong, but I felt they got to be exaggerating. It can't be that bad. I didn't want to believe that our system was that bad. So I didn't believe it. And I thought that this is some guy, and maybe he was a bad dad or whatever. I made the excuse thinking that it can't be real. But I listened, and I kept it in my head. Then I go to another place, another county, and I would hear the exact same story again from a different person who doesn't know the first person, who couldn't know the first person. And it was the same story. And I thought, whoa. Then I'd go another county 6 hours away, and I'd hear the same story. And at one point I said, okay, I'm missing something here, right? I'm saying I'm listening, so I better listen. So I got worried, and I went to my policy team. My policy team, they didn't know what to do. And then they said, and I said, well, that's not good enough. We got to find somebody to talk about this issue. And they gave me the man who's on this show right now, Kash Jackson. They said, this is the guy. He knows his stuff. Call him. So I called him up. And Kash spent, an hour on the phone, Kash? Get me up to speed on stuff that I couldn't believe.
Hour at least. Yep.
Yes, maybe more, right? And just talking. Get me up to speed on what was going on, trying to show me what was happening. And other thing I didn't get is, I thought, again, ignorant I thought this was a New York State problem, and that's it. It's a nationwide problem dealt with by the federal government, making things even worse, putting their fingers in to make things worse. And I guess what bothered me most about this is that I was ignorant to it. And I thought that I was a worldly traveled man who would know such things. And I didn't. And on top of that, my team didn't. And one of the reasons why they didn't know is because so many people who are in this situation don't want to share. They don't want to share it because it hurts, because it's painful, because it can be embarrassing. They don't want to share. So they keep it to themselves. So I'm so proud and happy of the men that I have in front of me now who are doing the dirty work to help everybody else. So if I could give the floor to you, Kash, for a second, please tell me, give them a brief situation what happened with you.
So just briefly, I was kind of coming into the very end of my naval career. I had 20 years in the United States Navy. And at the time, I had a top secret clearance, was kind of doing God's work, if you will, for the United States Navy and our nation. And so my background was extremely well vetted. And matter of fact, I ended up doing classified research and development on 2 separate tours for the United States military. And so I was extremely well vetted. My background was thoroughly investigated. I mean, they pour through your entire life history.
I had a top secret clearance too. I was in intelligence and Marine Corps. I get it.
Oh, right. Yeah. So and but anyway, so I, like many other service members, I'm going through a divorce, going through custody proceeding, and I had done some really hard tours. It took a toll on my family. Between doing research and development, I was gone a lot, and then being a drill instructor or a recruit division commander, as we're known. Average work weeks were 100 hours, and all of that. Just it takes a toll on people and on families. And so not unlike many other people, I ended up going through a divorce and custody, in which you have to, because we have to get married through the state. The state has to give you a license or their permission to get wed. And so to dissolve that, you have to go back through the state, which we did. And it was there that it was just really, I was punched square in the face with the fact that, man, I thought I'm going to get equal custody. I mean, I live right down the road from my kids. I had always been a very involved father, had always provided for my children, and no criminal history, no nothing. And so I thought, I'm going to get equal custody. It'll be somewhat of a reasonable arrangement. I'm still in the military at the time, but I'm in my last year of the Navy. And so I'm going to retire right there. I'm not getting deployed or anything. And so, but then I was hit with a rude awakening. And my own attorney said to me, and this is kind of really where I came to the harsh realization that this game was rigged from the get-go. They had given us a marital settlement agreement proposal from the opposing party there, and I looked through it, and it was extremely lopsided to one party, to my ex-wife, and I'm like, this is in no way equitable. I mean, it's not even remotely close. She's making almost $100,000 a year, and they're telling me that I need to pay nearly $2,500 a month in child support. Because in Illinois, outside of the child support order, they can also tack on extracurricular activities, and they could tack on childcare expenses. And those 2 additional expenses added on, I mean, then it brought my average monthly child support order to right around $2,500. I'm like, there's no way I could live. That's 44% of my active duty pay.
Literally focusing not on time with your son or daughter, but instead they're focusing on the dollar, like that matters. And I've heard that so many times, and it drove me crazy because, for those who don't know, I lost my father when I was a kid. I was 11, 12 when he passed away. And I said the same thing, and I would talk to him and I'd say, I would have rather had a broke dad in my life than no dad in my life. And one of the reasons why I ran after the Marine Corps was because I had no positive male role models in my life, and I was searching for them desperately. It's one of the reasons why I joined the military, right? I would have rather had that in my life. I don't care if my dad was wealthy or not. Who cares? I wanted that in my life. And it makes me so angry thinking that I lost my father and the state took your children's fathers away. And that makes me angry.
Yes, it should make us angry. And look, I mean, this is something that I had really brought to the forefront whenever I ran in 2018. And so you and I both were thankfully running simultaneously and bringing this issue to the forefront. And as you discussed earlier, a lot of people came forward to you throughout the state of New York and said, look, Larry, this is a serious problem. And I mean, it's a national problem. And it's to the tune of over 20 million children are growing up absent their biological fathers. And it's time that we really begin having an open, honest discussion on, is this fathers that are walking away from their responsibilities and their children, or is there something more to this? And I identified as 3 separate major domestic policies. And it's the domestic policy that's pushing fathers out of the picture. And we have to address these domestic policies, the inequality and inequities that exist. This isn't moms versus dads. This is absolutely the state and federal government opposing what's best for families.
So let me ask you a more important question, Kash, and this is an emotional one. At what point, as you were walking down this horrible road, thinking that because of who you were and because of what you had done and the documents that you had proof of who you were, did you realize, holy crap, I'm screwed. This isn't going to work. The system is rigged. At what point did you go, oh my God, they don't care that I'm this person. They don't care about my past. They don't care who I am. They don't care what I've done. I'm screwed. Do you remember kind of when it all came to you?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I mean, like it was yesterday. And so one of the nuances that's utilized in family law, and it's a weapon. It's a weaponized tactic to put one party in favorable light of the court. Okay. And so what they will do is a party, and this is typically recommended by unscrupulous attorneys, they'll recommend to their clients to get an order of protection. Now, to the layman, myself included, you believe, okay, somebody gets an order of protection against them. Clearly, they found evidence and there's some sort of criminal activity there that was proven to issue this. That's absolutely not the case.
Not true.
These things are rubber stamped every single day in family law courts. There's articles written all across the nation from various state bar associations on how these orders of protection are being utilized as a silver bullet tactic against predominantly men. And it's, I've seen men use it against women as well, but predominantly it is used against men. And these judges just rubber stamp them and send them on through. And I'm pretty certain they receive federal funding through the Violence Against Women's Act because of this. Now,
but let me touch one step further from that, if I could. And the thing is, this is double, triple bad, because in the criminal courts, you get an order of protection, like your point, because there's some evidence of something happening, some problem. So now when a cop has to enforce this, the cop assumes that this guy's a bad guy, that he's a criminal, because if it was criminal court, he's probably a bad guy. They have some evidence, some proof. So now the cop thinks you're a bad guy and comes at you like you're a criminal. And you go, what are you talking about? How can I be a criminal? And now you get into it with the cop. And now that makes things worse because the cop's like, what's wrong with you? You're a bad guy. And he's like, you know what happened? But the worst stories I heard is when these are actually issued and the father doesn't even know it's issued. They weren't even in the courtroom when it was issued. So now, because now the wife and husband who live in the same town shop at the same Walmart, this has already been issued. The husband, the soon-to-be ex-husband happens to be in the same Walmart as her. She calls the cops. He has a perp walk now out of Walmart in front of all of his family and friends. Like he's a criminal, like he's in, beating people up or something. And now he loses his job. He loses respect. He's fighting with the cops because he can't believe it. Bad, bad, bad all over this. And this happens all the time.
All the time. And look, I mean, people have no idea of just how far reaching these are. These are also red flag laws. And recently, if people were not paying attention, Democrats were able to slip by House Republicans in a defense spending bill, I believe that it was, that just passed here recently out of the House. And they carved out, Democrats put in there, and they carved out a special exception of orders of protection just for military and veterans, which does the same thing that it's been doing to citizens all over, myself included. But they have specifically targeted in this one, military and veterans. Now, hopefully, the Republican Senate will recognize this and get that scrapped. But this is being utilized to violate multiple constitutional rights. They are stripping you without any due process of your Second Amendment instantaneously because these are issued in a court where you're not present.
Yes.
You're not present when you're accused. So it's in an ex parte hearing. There's no evidence required and there's no punishment for perjury. And so the judge just rubber stamps these things and sends them out the door. And I believe that the evidence shows that these are probably causing more conflict because when the man's thrown out of the house if he doesn't have family or friends, if he's like maybe one of us who got transferred somewhere in the military and got hit with one of these, what do you do? There's very few men's shelters in this country. And it's just this wrecking ball that destroys your life. And that's what it did to me. And after the third one, and I'm standing in front of the judge, and they issued this third order of protection. We went through the emergency order of protection hearing. So the emergency order of protection is the first piece that's gained. Okay.
Right.
Then you come back 2 to 3 weeks later, and you go into a hearing to determine if they're going to extend that into what's known as a plenary order. Okay. Now this is temporary, but this can go out to 2 years.
Wow.
They can go all the way out to 2 years and keep somebody away from their children with no evidence, zero. And so in this plenary hearing, I knew, like, I smoked them. I destroyed them. I represented myself. I conducted my own cross-examination, and I had evidence that they didn't know that I had that just eviscerated their claims.
And it didn't matter.
They flipped tactics. They pulled out they pulled out a folder, had some of my social media in there, pictures. And in a photo, I'm holding a piece, a cardboard sign or poster board that says that basically, I paid $20,000 in attorney fees. I'm paying over $1,000 a month. I'm dead broke, not dead beat. And the judge said, "Is that you?" And I said, "Yeah, that's me." And he ended up extending that emergency order for something entirely different now, for me exercising my First Amendment right. And I was standing there in uniform, 19 years in the Navy, and that's when I go, this can't be real. This isn't possible.
There we
They're
go.
going to make me. I'm not going to see my children for my military retirement. And that was the moment. That was the one that I said, I'm not going to get justice here. I have to fight back. I swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution. And clearly this domestic enemy doesn't care about what I fought for and what men and women died for. And I have an obligation to do something about it. And that's what I'm doing.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Chris, I got to ask you a similar question. I know your story isn't exactly the same, but it's similar. It's another bad story, and you're out here doing something too. In fact, you're the one who bugged me to make this happen, so I appreciate that too. I appreciate the bugging that you did. It helps. Thank you so much for that. So, is your story similar or no?
So, yeah, I mean, I'm not even as awesome as Kash. I'm a flawed human being. We're all flawed human beings, but I don't even have the decorative service aspect of it. Kash has things that I guess would make it harder for them to do what they've done to us.
You would think.
But that's how crazy it is. After I heard Kash's story, I was like, holy crap, we got a problem here. Because, he's done things in his life that you would think would be a shield from them getting away with this. But it's not a shield. And it seems to me that, when I heard people like Kash's story, people who fight back, including myself, I'm feeling it now. I'm experiencing more things rather than just being a part of the movement and a part of the conversation. I was in jail last week for paying my child support, and they just didn't look at the receipt. And when I showed them the receipt, they still kept me in jail. So going back to my experience when this first started, I mean, as kids, we grow up, man, I don't have anything against child support for dads that don't want to be around. You know what I mean? So when me and my ex finally split after God knows how many times, I said, all right, well, what are we doing with custody? I'm willing to change jobs because I was working in restaurants. I was providing for the whole family, but I was working, 60, 70 hours a week, nights, weekends, holidays. In the restaurant industry, it's decent money, but you give your life up.
And you're hustling for tips and things like that.
Yeah. And I mean, I was a manager, I was a server, I play music. I did what I had to do to take care of my family while I was in a family intact relationship. I had to make an adjustment because I figured, all right, well, if we're not together, then I'm going to need to have a job that's conducive with having a child at least 50% of the time. So I need more daytime hours, your typical 9 to 5 situation.
So you actually were prepared to change your lifestyle for this?
No, I did. And
you did change your lifestyle. Okay.
Yeah. So I was playing music. I lived in Nashville for a while. She had left, then she came back. She left back to North Carolina, came back to Nashville.
Were you guys already divorced at this time, or you were in the middle of getting divorced?
Never married. My situation was no marriage.
Okay, no
right.
marriage. Okay.
So we wound up having one child. That's when all this started, is when she left me in Nashville, because I really think she was just having a hard time being there without family and friends, and I was working all the time.
So wait a minute, so you weren't married, but you wanted to be part of your child's life
the whole time.
And so the state decided to punish you for that.
Yeah. Basically, when she left, she filed for benefits, and as soon as she got on Medicaid and all the benefits, they make you become a child support Title 4D case. Because as we know, those who are educated in the situation, child support is not about the best interest of the child.
Never.
It's about welfare recovery.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're on welfare, people like me and Kash are paying for the dads who only pay $50 a month, and those moms are on welfare. I pay right now. My child support was as high as $1,750. And I was making $2,500. So I went bankrupt within a year.
Sure. I've heard that story 1,000 times.
Right.
They were able to lie about my income because I was a musician.
I want to touch this piece for a second, right? You guys have both brought up the same thing, lying. Now, I have literally said to people who work in family, attorneys, and I say, everyone's lying in that court, and you know that. And they'll go, well, I would never lie. And they always say that. And I actually have this on video. I forgot where. It was upstate New York once. And I was in a vape shop, and we would and as I'm in the vape shop, and there was a family law attorney there. And I asked her, I said this, and she says, I would never lie. I said, I get it. I'm glad you'd never lie. I said, I'm sure a lot of lawyers don't lie. I'm also sure that they encourage their clients to lie. They say things like, I'm not saying he hit you, but if he did, then look what you could get. That's how they tell their person to lie. They don't say lie. They say stuff like that. And she said, oh, I would never do that. I said, great. Absolutely. Are you telling me no one else in your field does that? That isn't rampant? This is exactly what she did. So exactly what she did. She just looked away.
Yep.
She did not answer that question. Yeah. She literally looked away. They can't look you in the eye. She couldn't do it. Now, maybe she was a good lawyer. Yep. I don't know the woman at all.
They can't take it.
Perhaps she was honest. I mean, there are good people in every field, obviously. So maybe she was honest and awesome. I have no idea. But there's no doubt that lying is rampant throughout the entire system. No doubt.
Yeah. So what happened when she left?
It's not just rampant, Larry. This is RICO activity that we're talking about. I mean, they are organizing and manipulating court outcomes for financial gain. This is racketeering. This should be investigated by the Department of Justice in every single aspect. And I'm gonna shut up for a second because I know I apologize, Chris. There was a delay there.
No.
Whenever
no,
you started.
Not at all. Don't apologize. People need to hear what Kash Jackson has to say. Otherwise, I wouldn't have set this up. No, Kash, finish what you're talking about.
People just do not realize, and people do not realize to the extent and the depravity of these courts. Okay, look, we've got to begin analyzing the domestic policies that are driving the systemic issues in this country. Okay, when we're talking about, everybody's talking about criminal justice reform, and rightfully so. We should be laser focused on criminal justice reform because that is what has led to the largest prison populace in the world. Okay, as is, if you think that justice system's bad, I want you to imagine another separate set of justice systems. And what they do is they imprison you into an emotional and mental hell where they torment you and bankrupt you. Your good name is smeared. They run you through the ringer with these orders of protections. They're like unlimited. I met a father, they completely reversed and gave the man full custody of like 5 kids. And these attorneys are stoking the conflict.
Yep.
And they're doing so with impunity. Everybody talks about qualified immunity. The one we really need to be concerned with is absolute immunity. It is judges that possess absolute immunity. They are not held accountable. They're internally monitored by other judges. The sheer lack of transparency on that process and the investigation process on complaints made against judges and what's being done, that alone should concern America, and it doesn't. Look, you're talking about the third branches of government. The checks and balances have failed. The executive branch and the legislative branch are not holding the judiciary accountable. They gave themselves absolute immunity, and somebody who has absolute immunity, and in many of these courtrooms, like in Illinois, where there's no cameras, there's no audio recording equipment, and they're severing rights in status calls, not there to hear any substantive matters, but inside status calls, they're violating due process when somebody wouldn't even think to have a clerk there to record the proceedings. Okay, that's exactly what they did to me. I haven't seen my children in over 2 years, Larry.
Wow.
It's inhumane what they're doing to moms and dads. It is inhumane what they're doing to our children. This is time we can never get back.
I got to step in here for one second, if I can.
Entertaining this idea that
the biggest issue that I have here is what you're saying is the reason why people aren't looking at it is two reasons. And the reasons that I thought it wasn't a problem. See, I know what they're thinking because I used to think this. I used to think the way the average person thinks. The first one is, it can't be that bad. It's not, I don't want to believe that, right? I did not want to believe it. So I just wouldn't hear it. That's reason number one, which is why Chris is 100% right. We've got to hear these stories more and more and more. So people go, oh my God, it is real. Because it took me several people before I got it. I'm telling you, I did not believe it when I first heard it. I had to hear it multiple times before I went, oh my God, this is a problem. So that's step one. But the second thing is, people look at family law as the kids' table. Like it's not the real court, right? The real court is either criminal and federal prosecution, and lawyers look at it that way. Judges look at it that way. So it doesn't get looked upon. But my argument is, and it always has been and still is, family court's the most important court of all of them, because if we have better family court, we have better families. If we have better families, we have less criminals. We have less people fighting in civil court. It's the most critical family. The family unit is a critical unit. If you look at our prisons, they're filled with men who don't have fathers in their lives. It's insane.
So, Larry, if I may jump in on that too, is I mean, as we know, family law and fatherlessness, you know, is the root cause for many of the systemic issues that we have. 100%. And Kash can rattle off all the numbers. He's recited them so many times, and they're slowly growing. You know, the numbers that he's rattling off these days are probably from a year or so ago. It's climbing. The reason we have mental health issues is because of the separation of the family unit. We weren't designed this way.
Right. Sure.
The government has stepped in as the custodian of our children and basically says, look, you're going to keep going to work, dad or mom sometimes. And we're going to tell you how much it's going to cost to raise your kids. We don't care about what you budget or how much you earn or how you need to live. They basically say how much they're going to steal. And it regulates you. You know, if you're taking half my income, well, what if I was barely making it off 100%? Now you took half. Now, not only can I not survive without living on a couch, but now you've made it so I could never afford to have my children.
But there's another piece I got to bring up here that I think is actually more important. It's a philosophical piece and then another impact. The philosophical piece is, if you had stayed with your woman, would you have to have a certain amount of money? No. You could literally be a deadbeat husband. That would be fine.
Right. So
and the courts would say nothing.
We're not allowed to leave relationships because we have to worry about having our kids taken or our money garnished to the point where we can't even have a life.
Yes. So literally you could just, if you just stayed in the marriage, I'm going to do nothing. I'm going to lay on a couch and do nothing and you're fine. But if you leave, I can go one step further. I go one step further. Let's say once in your life you made $100,000 a year. Good for you. Now the court says, well, at one point you made $100,000. Therefore, we're going to punish you as if you make $100,000 in perpetuity. But now if you were married or still with your
right.
woman, you're not required to do that, but now you must. Well, in today's world where 10 years ago the job you have didn't exist, companies go out of business, boom and bust happen, what's going to happen? What does the judge tell you when you can't make that money, when you change your career? The judge says, get another job. So if you get another job, now to your point, Chris, I don't have time for my kids. So now I have to have 3, 4 jobs just to pay to survive. But I have to go now. That's the philosophical piece. Let me go to the more important piece. Now your son or daughter has to watch you struggle your entire life and can't watch you become the man that you should become or want to become, and can't see you pick yourself up and fall down and get back up, and the resilience that your child needs to see in you, because children don't do what we tell them. They don't do what we say. They do what we do.
They do what they see.
Yes, that's the most important piece. And now in the case, it's almost always the mom in this case. The mom has the dad arrested, thinking I'll show him, and the judge goes, we'll put him in jail. That'll teach him. What they just did is now they have the son or daughter watch their dad do a perp walk. If you're a son and you see that, what do you think of yourself now? That's your image of manhood. If you're a woman, a young girl, that's your image of a man. How are you going to have a good relationship?
And there's no value.
There's no value. In fact, we wonder why our youth doesn't want to get married. Well, because we've watched the divorce court be so horrible and disgusting with people who the child believed these are people who love me and will stay together forever and will never break apart. And then they watch the vitriol, the lying, the deceit, the punishment, the vengeance. And they said to themselves, why the hell do I want that? I don't want that. I don't trust men or women. They're going to do the same thing that my mom and dad did to each other. It is we're crushing our children with this in an attempt to be righteous against parents.
Larry, I do want to jump in just because you mentioned something about what we value about switching jobs and wanting to be fathers. I can tell you that the last time I was in child support court for show cause, and I told Kash this story, and I have the audio recording because I thought it was just preposterous that she even uttered these words, was that I was struggling financially, that I've changed careers, that I'm fighting for my kids in custody court, and I've spent over $20,000, and I have to get the child support amount adjusted because it was based on a false income. And I said, so I've been advocating, I work 40 hours a week, and this is what I make now. And I've been advocating roughly 10 hours a week for equal shared parenting. The lawyers, the child support attorney, and everyone in the courtroom, including the judge, was like, what's equal shared parenting?
Yes.
What is that?
Yes.
And I said, well, you know, I want to be a father. Concept. And it seems like you guys are putting profit over parenting. And it turned into a thing where she basically told me, don't you think those 10 hours a week that you advocate for equal shared parenting, you called it, is how she sort of dismissed it, would be better spent earning money to pay your child support, to support your children? No, I know, we know the answer.
No.
I will support my children in my home with my money. You are stealing from us and telling us what it costs to raise our kids and leaving us with nothing.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. Absolutely.
So I thought that was a funny comment, and I made sure that I got the court audio.
Go ahead, Kash.
Larry, let me throw something on that that you're going to find pretty interesting. So I spoke with or exchanged messages rather with a active duty Marine, a sergeant out in California just a couple nights ago, and he's going through this process right now. And so his take home is $2,900 a month. Now he gets a housing allowance, but all of that housing allowance goes directly to base housing, so he never sees it. So basically he doesn't have a rent or a mortgage, which we know that saves a lot of money. But his take-home pay otherwise would be $2,900. Now, in his case, the judge ordered him to turn over $20 $300 to his ex-wife, leaving him with $600. Period.
Wow.
$600
Yeah.
to pay all of his other bills. So okay, rent's taken care of. Great, fantastic. He doesn't have a rent, but now he has $600, and one person eating. The cost of living in California is ridiculous. We all know
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
but just for him to afford food for himself and his child when his child comes over, for him to pay his insurance, to pay his other bills that he may have. I mean, the guy's not going to make it. He's going to start falling into debt. He's going to run up credit cards. He's going to get in trouble with the military. And where a guy's had it, he's been in the Marine Corps for 8 years, no issues, has a fantastic career path. And his only mistake is having set foot in family court, thinking that he's going to go in there and get some sort of, equality. And I asked him, I said, what does your command think about this? And he goes, they can't believe how bad that they're screwing me. But I guess, kind of really what the attitude is that, well, everybody knows that Marines in California get screwed in family court. That's just the way that it is. I'm like, don't you think it's about time that we change that? I mean, I think we're past time to change this.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Right.
So that does impact military mission readiness.
Let me go to the next piece that people are bringing up, and that is the idea of punishing the guy, right? The idea they can do this drives me crazy. The idea that, okay, you know what, Chris, you didn't pay, you were supposed to pay $300, you paid $298, you were $2 short. So I'll teach you, I'll take your driver's license. Wow, is that stupid? Like, there was a judge who thought that was a good idea. He can't pay, so let's take his driver's license so that he can't go to work to pay. And if he does drive and get caught, he gets a ticket or goes to jail, so he can't pay. Or let's take away your professional license. You were a carpenter, licensed professional. Let's take that away. Or let's just put him in jail for 30 days. That'll teach him. Now he loses his job. How in the world did anyone think that was a good idea? And the cruelty upon this is the worst of them all.
Well, I think this is me personally, is there's two types of men. There's men who probably grew up in the system and fatherless themselves that don't mind getting thrown in and out of jail. And then there's a man that will do everything he can, which means live on a couch, or sleep at his parents, and just to stay out of jail so he can get his visitation, just so he can see his kids. He will have nothing, but his kids will have the opportunity to visit him. And you have two different kinds of dads. You have the broken one and the one fighting for his life not to be broken and not to have his kids be broken.
Well, and this is a piece that I love that you brought up, because, one of the hardest pieces that I see is the system is made up for the worst kind of dad, right? The system supports the deadbeat dad, and the good dad is the one who gets punished and pays for the deadbeat. To be clear, one of the reasons, this is why, and Kash, you know this just as much as I do, there's a reason why politicians don't take up this cause. And there's several reasons. Reason number one, most of the men, and mostly men, but there are women too, but most of the men who've been busted up by this system, they're broke. So they can't donate to campaigns because all their money either went to the family or went to a lawyer, usually a lawyer, right? Went to one of those two. So they don't have money to donate. I get that, number one. So it's not lucrative as a politician. Second, a lot of the men, to your point, have been put in jail and they're felons. So now they can't vote. Third, a lot of the women who have been hit by the deadbeat dads don't understand that there are so many good dads who are actually punished by that those women assume you're supporting deadbeat dads. So you get a sign that, oh, you just want to support deadbeat dads. I think those are the three reasons. But the point is what you said, Chris. The system itself is so broken, it literally supports the deadbeat dads and punishes the good dads.
Right, and the good dads will do whatever they can. Like I literally, Larry, just spent a night in jail for paying my child support. So I'm unemployed because I'm a musician and I work in restaurants. So I've been receiving unemployment. They took 60% of the money that I've received in unemployment. I paid it on a Monday. I had court on a Friday, and it said, they even told me, and the letter states, if you contact child support and you pay the amount that's agreed upon, you don't have to come to court. The following week, on a Tuesday morning, a sheriff came to my house and arrested me. I showed him the receipt. He said there was nothing he could do because they needed to get in front of the judge on a Friday because that's when child support court is. I said, so you're going to keep an innocent man in jail till Friday because you can't just text this or email it to him? We just sent someone to outer space last week, and you can't make this happen? You're going to keep me here. They put me on a $10,000 cash only bond. I couldn't even get a bail bondsman to get me out. And Larry, it's the first time I've ever been to jail. And I was there for something I didn't do.
And it's humiliating.
So I learned a lot. I prayed a lot.
So let me ask you this question. I mean, this is another one. If I can go to you, Kash, for just 1 second. When you realized, you told me, when you realized that you were going to be screwed, did you feel alone? How'd you feel? Did you feel abandoned? How'd you feel?
I felt betrayed. As a service member, that's what I felt. It was, to me, it was the ultimate act of betrayal because I knew I'm standing in uniform. There was no evidence presented for what they sought, for this third order of protection that they got against me. And I was at my breaking point. The first one, I mean, we'd been separated for 2 years by over 2,000 miles. And the first one was allegations that were brought up from eight years prior. And I'm like, this is nonsense. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. And on the third one, it was this system was made to destroy me. And at that time, I was already speaking with all of these other parents, men and women both. Okay, and for everyone listening, I want people to understand this isn't just a man only issue. There's tons of women enduring this, and these ladies are enduring this stereotype of, well, you didn't get full custody, so you're broken. Like, society automatically believes if a woman doesn't get full custody, she's crazy. There's something wrong with her. She's concealing something. And so, and it makes it very easy for them to keep these women silenced and bullied and intimidated because society is so stereotyped against them that, they think that they're crazy. And it's betrayal. It is a betrayal by our country. It's a betrayal by our states. It's a betrayal by those who swear an oath to defend the Constitution. And they're not doing that. They're using this as a multi-billion-dollar business to line the pockets of attorneys and cottage industries. And we have to identify it and call it out for what it is. A buddy of mine, and I'm not going to say his name, but he spent $500,000 in his case thus far. He was recently ordered to undergo a third psychological evaluation to the tune, Larry, $30,000. $30,000. And his first two, he was cleared. And they're doing it just drag out litigation, bilking for everything that he's worth, bankrupt him, and it's a war. It's a war of attrition.
Well,
they drive you out of it. You can't
people don't really get, and that is the people who make the money are the lawyers. And what the lawyers do is, as you guys know, some people may not know this. One of the first things they do is they check what your finances are. They look and see. Let's get all our finances on the table. So they go, oh, okay, Kash has $100,000. Guess how much this cost? $100,000. Oh, he's got $200,000. Guess how much this cost?
$100,000.
$200,000. Exactly. It costs whatever you got.
I would be interested, Kash, if we can find this out, how often they take advantage of military vets who get retirement or disability checks that they can easily extract from because that money's guaranteed. So there's probably I don't know what the divorce rate or separation rate or custody rate is for our military, but we have an awful lot of people fighting for our country that you and I both know that have gone through separations and divorce due to the pressures of being away and whatnot. But when they have disability checks or retirement checks, if they do make it that long and they get this money that's guaranteed from the government, well, child support can swoop in and take that real easy because it's issued from the government. So they're basically just stealing their own money back and never giving you what you deserve for your service, and they take your kids to justify it.
Yes, that's the worst part.
I've got a 3-year study that I found whenever I was doing some research. It was conducted by the Veterans Administration and the Office of Child Support Enforcement. And over the course of 3 years, they surveyed over 14,000 homeless veterans. And overwhelmingly, these 14,000 homeless veterans indicated that their greatest unmet needs were stemming around from issues revolving around family court. It was reestablishing contact with their children. It was reestablishing contact with their kids. It was getting driver's license reinstated, helping with legal fees and legal matters. And while they didn't go into the details, I know, and just to reinforce what I'm saying here, when I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma with Chris about a month and a half ago, I guess, and I'm out there speaking to a crowd of people outside the Trump rally. We went to do some activism there and spread our message there. And so we're out there talking about the fatherless epidemic, and a young Marine comes up to us, an active duty Marine, I apologize. I think he was a soldier, and he was in the Army. But he said that his unit returned. Yeah, his unit had returned from Afghanistan within the last year, and within the 9 months of returning, 3 members of his unit, all undergoing family law cases, killed themselves.
Yep.
These service members feel betrayed. One of the largest suicide demographics amongst veterans is from our Vietnam veteran community. I know Vietnam veterans that are still having their Social Security money and disability money taken for child support on children that have long aged out of the system. This is to pay back penalties and fees and interest. And it is a racket, and it is destroying the veteran and active duty service member community.
So let me go to Chris for a second again. When did you know that you were screwed? Like, when did you look and go, all right, I'm done. This is not going to work well. I'm not going to get a fair shake. At what point were you like, oh my God, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to get a fair shake.
The first attorney showed me that basically when he said the words to me that he was more concerned about his reputation than how I wanted him to fight, and he didn't want to. He didn't want to say the things or introduce the information that I wanted to share because he knew the judge and he wasn't going to put his reputation on the line. Both of my attorneys have dropped me. The last attorney I had, I paid $10,000 up front because she told me, and everyone told me, she was the best. She was a bulldog, but she's only a bulldog if you go bankrupt or she takes more money from you. We got 2. Custody is usually held with multiple cases in a custody week. And they hear multiple cases at a time. Mine was on the tail end of the week, and there wasn't enough time to do the whole thing, so it was meant to be continued. I had paid $10,000 up front. We were going to come up with a date within a month or two. Within 6 days, I kept emailing my attorney and asking her, what date did we come up with? What's the date? She said, Mr. Cole, after we've reviewed your, the money that you've given us, you've run out. So we're going to need another $10,000 retainer.
Wow.
Dude, we were going to do the date. We were going to do it right then. So it got continued. So I don't owe you anything.
Right.
But I have that in writing. That is the kind of legal.
So hold on now. When this happened and you realize I'm in trouble, did you feel alone? Did you feel betrayed? What did you feel?
First?
Yeah.
Angry.
Okay. Then what?
I realized that we're not, like Kash said, it's rigged. And it's not it's not rigged everywhere, but it's rigged enough that it is. Let's just say family law ruins more lives than COVID-19.
I would buy that. Yes.
Well, I mean, statistically speaking, we can.
I would buy that.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry for those who have been hurt by it, gotten sick by it, whatever's happened. And
I get you saying that. You're saying that this is a more devastating issue.
Family
when it
law
comes.
is a root issue, like we talked about early. They're destroying people emotionally, financially, spiritually, physically. If you destroy the family, you control human beings.
But the reason why I'm bringing this up is so many people who go through this feel like they're the only one, which is why this type of show, the things you're doing, Kash, the things you're doing, Chris, these are important things to let people know they're not alone, that they're not the only ones being betrayed, that it is just them. And when something bad happens to somebody, it's very common for them to go, oh my God, what did I do to deserve this? Or why only me? Or, oh, it's only me getting, this issue. When no, it's systemic. It is everywhere. And it isn't that you did something bad. It's that you're in this bad system. And that's why you're getting screwed over, because it's a bad system. And I love that you guys are doing something. So I want to ask a more important question of you, Kash, you could have, if you wanted to, simply said, I'm out, I'm done, I'm not doing this anymore. You could have crawled into a shell into nothing, but you didn't. You're out there, you ran for office, heavily on this issue, you're doing stuff like this, you're still working for parental rights. Why?
Well, I have an obligation, Larry. I swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And clearly, I did not fulfill that oath for the 20 years I was in the military, or else I would have addressed this issue. And it's one of the just the really peculiar things about our military is that we swear that oath. Each and every one of us do that, and we put on that uniform. And that, in effect, Larry, is what the American taxpayers are paying us to do, is to defend the Constitution. But what our American government is very adept at doing is pointing our eyes outwards at these perceived foreign threats.
Yes.
Which are of no threat to our Constitution. I'm sorry, but no goat farmer in Afghanistan is a threat to our constitutional rights. These red flag laws were signed into legislation by Republicans and Democrats. All of this corruption is rampant through both parties, and I do it because it's not just I love my children. I love my children tremendously. I do,
of course.
But I'm angry, Larry. I'm angry for all of those men and women who are suffering in this. I'm angry for the families of the men and women that have committed suicide, that succumbed to the depression and the stress and the anxiety. I'm angry for them. And I know that this is, look, it's impacting every major social issue that the two mainstream parties endlessly debate. It increases rates of high school dropouts, which leads to increased rates of living on poverty, leads to increased rates of teen pregnancy, of abusing drugs, of committing violent crime, and ending up a product of the system. Okay. And if we address not just family law, but the other domestic policies, the welfare states being talked about by people, how that incentivizes single parenthood. We've talked about a great deal, and thankfully more people are coming to the conclusion that, the war on drugs, it hasn't been successful. It's not working. And it's largely affected, the minority community there in taking fathers out of the home, which creates all of these other environments that we see in the likes of Chicago and LA and New Orleans. And so we have to say, look, this is a real problem. It's causing a lot of social issues that need to be addressed. And if this was to reduce alone, the veteran suicide rate, it would be worth it to address it. And I'm telling you, just like that young Marine said, or a soldier said, would be worthwhile to address. Look, I'm telling you right now, as a 20-year service member who has lived this for 6 years of his life, that it's nearly killed me. I've struggled with major depression. I still see a counselor. I use medical cannabis to treat my depression. I never used cannabis up until 2018. It was because of this process. It literally destroys you. And you can I could go to the VA and get all hopped up on pharmaceuticals and deal with all of those issues, or I can use my God-given right to use a plant that's here. But again, you can tie that right in too, because I know people that have cancer who are using it, and they took their kids, even though they had a medical license to use it in a different state, and they took their children. So, you can literally tie this into really every major issue that libertarians care about.
No,
Larry,
I'm with you. Go ahead, Chris.
You said it one time on an interview, probably multiple interviews. But it's the government breaks your leg, hands you a crutch. All this is it's a way to control.
Yes.
How do you control? Kash says it a lot. Men are protectors. If you take the protector out of the home, you're basically leaving children rudderless. Men are designed as a different side of nurturing than women. Different but equal. God or the universe, whoever you believe in, designed men and women to have children because men and women influence children in a positive way. To reduce a mother or father to just a paycheck or a provider only, without giving that DNA something that it recognizes, which is love. My kids, thank God, thank the universe, thank whoever, right now when they see me, they love me. And I see them every other weekend. They want to know why I don't get to spend half the time. I say things like, me and mommy have to have conversations with a judge so he can help us. And
that's what most people don't do that, right? See, most don't do that. What happens is when the kid says, "Mommy, what's wrong with dad?" Mommy just does a litany of what's horrible about the dad. And then when the kids go to the dad and go, "What's wrong with mom?" Dad does a litany of what's bad about the mom, not realizing that what you've just done is told that kid that where that kid comes from is nothing but bad. You've just told that kid that their DNA, that where they come from, their support structure is nothing but bad. I mean, this is crushing our children. I get that we want to punish the bad parent. I get that emotion behind that. But the actual outcome is you're not punishing the parents more than you're punishing the kids. They're the ones devastated for decades.
If there is an issue with a parent, we should be spending money not on attorneys, but on helping that parent get to a better place for that child. That is what child support should be. If a parent is struggling with mental health, addiction, we should be using money to figure out how to improve the lives of parents who either have made mistakes, grew up fatherless and broken. Instead, we're just recreating cycles of brokenness, and I'm tired of it.
I agree. Look, I came out with a plan when I ran for governor, and I was basically 3 things with an extra piece. And the first one was, I really think the number one thing we have to do is in family court, if you lie in family court, it should be treated as perjury. Straight, treated as perjury. If we do that, the second that a lawyer says, hey, if you say this, if now someone tapes it and finds out, that lawyer loses their license because they're now an accomplice to a crime. So that'll happen maybe one time and then that's over. The lying will begin to stop because in my view, the core of all of this is the lie. There are many issues, but at its core is the lie because once the lie happens, the problem is the lie happens, it's a preemptive lie, right? So the judge says, wife, lie on the dad, and the dad's trying to be a good dad in this case, right? He's only a good dad, can't believe he's going to be lied on, gets lied on. Now what does he want to do? Counter. He wants to attack, so he lies back. So now it's vitriol lies, vitriol lies, vitriol lies. Everybody's lying. The judge believes nobody. The judge punishes whomever. And worse, the kids watch mom and dad lie. The kids have to lie also. And because there's no penalty for perjury, mom comes in, sister comes in, they all lie, they corroborate lies because there's no punishment for it. But put grandma in jail for 30 days if she corroborates a lie, all of a sudden grandma doesn't show up in court anymore. She keeps her mouth shut. Changes everything. Right. And what we'll do is, now if the guy is a bad dad and he is a bad guy, then you still tell, yes, he's a bad guy, but now it's not a lie. It's real. He's a bad guy. Good. Put the guy in jail. He's a bad guy. Put the guy in jail. He's beating his wife. I got you. That guy should go away. No problem with that.
That's it.
That's the key. But there's a second piece to this too. And that is we have to let judges know that their priority is not money, which means pulling the federal government out completely and not running child support through the state system where they make money like a credit card company, not making it a money grab. And the prior and the judge should be listed in family court. Priority is family with kin. That should be, because you know this, right? If they're mad at you, Kash, they think you're a bad guy, whatever, they don't like you. So now your brother says, I'll take the kid. Or your father says, let me have the kid. They go, no, because you might let Kash see the kid. How stupid is that? Let the kid be with the kid's kin. No matter what happens, we know this for sure. While there is a chance that a child may get hurt or something with their family, statistically, every kid is better off with kin. That's across the country, across the world, across cultures. You are statistically better off as a child with your own kin. That should be priority. Last piece, and this is New York State specific, but also other states, you've got to make family court looked upon as the senior court. And it isn't, because it should be. And this is a cultural and a legal issue. It should be the most senior court. When you make it a senior court, it will change how everyone looks at it. It will change how the press looks at it. It will change how the individual lawyers and judges look at it. It will change everything. Too many judges look at this as family court is their thing they do on the side when there's no criminal, or thing they do before they can get a promotion. That's got to go away. And my last piece that I wrap on top of this is there should be a way of judging judges which is not in the government. It should be literally like a Yelp review. I'm not joking. Like a Yelp review that the father and the mother both grade the judge. And if the judge is graded awesome by all the dads and bad by all the women, that's a biased judge. You're gone. You're gone. You're a biased judge. You should be being rated around the same, right? In some way, you should be graded equally. Equally bad or equally good, but it should be equal, because this judgment is not because I'm happy with what the judge did. The judgment should be, is the judge fair? Because some people are going to judge the judge poorly because they got hammered. But that's fine, as long as it's fair. I don't mind. So we do that, it will change everything. That's my plan for family law.
Well, I think that, too, Larry, like you said, Larry, one critical component, you have to add on there that you've got to end absolute immunity. I mean, we cannot gloss over this absolute immunity piece, because it is, so there's two real critical pieces here that are allowing them to make these types of decisions. Number one, they use this undefined phrase of best interest of the child, which varies from every single attorney and every single judge that you speak with. They don't know what's in the best interest of the child. The parents do. Therefore, the state's only responsibility is to protect the rights of both parents and honoring equal protection under the law. If they don't have a finding of unfitness or a written finding that the circumstances would not warrant equal custody, i.e. the father, like myself, still in the military and deploying overseas, fine. But for all of these cases, like in Chris's case, and whenever I was getting out of the military, those wouldn't have been that way. And we should have gotten equal custody, but these judges are hiding behind absolute immunity. They can trample your due process rights. They can rig this case against you without you knowing it. And they know that there's going to be no accountability. Number one, because they bankrupted you and your ability to access the appeals court has just been severed. You're not getting to the appeals court because you don't have $11,000, $15,000, $20,000 or more to get yourself to the appeals court. So they know you're not going to reach the next highest level of justice. And even if you do, they're probably just going to remand it right back to them. And now you've pissed them off, and now they're really going to get you. So they're using that as a bully pulpit to be able to just trample and force whatever it is that they really want, and not what's fair, not what's equitable, and not what's in the best interest of our kids.
And they make money on it.
These judges, like mine, Judge Salvi and Judge Christensen in Lake County, Illinois, are two judges that if this were 1776, I would drag them out and tar them and feather them myself. But it's not, so I would rather just to work to get them into prison. And that is where they belong. These people belong in prison for the human rights violations under color of law. These aren't good people. They're really, really bad people.
So go ahead, Chris. I think you're chopping at the bit. Go ahead.
Were you both in the military? Obviously, Kash was.
Yes, I was a Marine for 7 years.
So as you know, was trying to, sorry, I lost my point here. I had a point to that question.
No worries. I want to bring up a piece that Melissa just brought up, which is the idea of foster care, right? States make money by putting kids into foster care, right? That's what I'm saying. I want to make sure that the goal is to keep the kids with kin, not to make cash because you're putting it into foster care. It is a terrible, terrible idea. So look, before we wrap this up, I want to ask: is there something specific that you want to bring up, or someplace you want to send people for more information? Let me start, if I could, with you, Kash. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I am the VP of Public Advocacy for the Fathers' Rights Movement. And the legislation that the Fathers' Rights Movement is working towards isn't just to benefit fathers. It would benefit mothers as well who are being adversely affected in this, i.e. you're presumed fit in the eyes of the court. You have an automatic rebuttable presumption of equal custody. So the same things that are affecting men that are also affecting women, that's what they're striving towards. So please go over to the Fathers' Rights Movement page. They are a nonprofit organization, a 501c3. I am the VP of Public Advocacy, so I spend a tremendous amount of time on the road advocating for policy reform, educating the public. And so if you know, if you want to be a supporter of mine and what I do there, you can go over to my page and do that, as well as to Mr. Chris Coles. And I'll let Chris kind of run with his own there.
Go ahead, Chris, please.
Yeah, so I am a libertarian because of family law. I am a libertarian because I met a gentleman named Adam Kokesh, and he brought me on his campaign for president this election season. And we started Victims of Family Law together, and he asked me to, he said, this is a black swan issue. This is an issue that is nonpartisan, that it would bring libertarians, Republicans, Democrats, and anyone in between together, because before we care about Biden or Trump or Joe Jorgensen or anybody, we care about our kids. And we know that there's something going wrong in this country in family law. 20+ million people would love to hear Joe Jorgensen, and Spike Cohen has already said he's on board. He agrees with ending qualified and absolute immunity. He agrees with having transparency in the courts by recording and video of your own cases. He agrees that any financial incentives by the federal government must be removed, that we need to put parenting over profit and destroy the industry aspect of this. So go check out Victims of Family Law for Joe Jorgensen. I'm the director of that. I work directly with Kash Jackson. If Kash Jackson wants to go protest somewhere, if Kash Jackson needs help with anything, I'm next to Kash Jackson from now on. As long as now I'm not in jail falsely for paying my child support again. And I'm going to deal with that issue on another day.
Good. All right, guys, I want to say thank you for coming on.
There is a Nate.
Watching. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kash. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Wrap up.
Oh, just one last plug there, that another organization called the Child Support Hustle, ran by a friend of mine. She actually is organizing national protests on August 17th. So if you go over to the Child Support Hustle, the details are on her page.
There we go. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys coming. I hope it was an interesting show. As always, you can go check in the show notes, and you want to see what's going on with Kash. And of course, you want to take care of the show, please head over to patreon.com/Sharpe. Thank you guys. Have a great night.
Thank you, Larry.